The minister also describing the fuel subsidy removal, including the floating of the naira and the latest hike of power tariff as necessary pains for Nigerians to bring about necessary pains for necessary gains. And it said that will be needed if there is to be any form of improvement in the Nigerian economy. Talked about the need for the transformation of the power sector by the Bola Tinubu-led administration, as the president has recently signed the Electricity Act Amendment Bill 2024 into law, and used the opportunity to plead with Nigerians for understanding, support and patience while the government continues to address the root cause of the challenges bedeviling the power sector in the country. At this point, we have our correspondent in Abuja, Ahmadin Uyi, who would also be talking to us and giving us live updates, bringing us, of course, a summary of what the Minister of Power has said. Ahmadin Uyi, over to you.
Thank you very much. It's been a very, very intense session with the Minister of Power, and he gave an overview of events happening in the power sector, and he touched on several far-reaching concerns by citizens. Now, I took a few jottings of a summary of what he has said. The minister emphasized that before now, that the generating company had borne about 3 trillion naira in liabilities, and it was no longer, this was subsidy being paid by the federal government to for citizens. So what the federal government had done, in line with the recent tariff increase for Band A customers, was to reduce this from 90% to about 50%. He said that the receipts for January alone stood at about 240 billion, of which about 24 billion only was what was being paid. But by the increase of that 15% for Band A subscribers, this had reduced that burden on generating companies to about 50% instead of 90%. So the federal government will no longer be paying subsidies of about 3 trillion naira, but this had been reduced to about 1.5 trillion naira. And he also talked about the recent increase. He said that there was a need to ensure that industry-wide tariff was being received, so that for the industry it will be sustainable, because before now what the companies were making was not sustainable, and this has stopped investors. This has stopped them also from investing on their infrastructure and others. But now that there is a tariff increase just for Band A customers, it will reduce the burden. The minister also talked about the need to ensure liquidity, and this was why there was also an increase. Then he also talked about investments by the federal government, that before now that the infrastructure in the transmission line, the transmission subsector, had dilapidated. So what the federal government is doing is revamping power substations and also building new substations, because for over 60 years investment had reduced, but the current administration is focusing on improving investment to ensure that they boost transmission. He talked about the Siemens deal, which had been very popular, the MOU signed by the last administration, and said that President Bola Tinubu is committed to ensuring that that deal, that Siemens deal, that MOU which was signed, that the federal government sees it to a logical end, to be able to boost transmission and also generation and distribution. He also talked about the federal government working to close the metering gap in the country, because before now there has been a problem which the investors, the power distribution companies and the generating companies had been unable to meet. This and several others, he took time to explain to Nigerians, calling for patience.
Madam Uyi, I must say a very big thank you for the update, and of course helping us to understand what all the things that the Minister of Power said as regards that the power sector, the challenges bedeviling it, and what needs to be done to rejig that particular part of the economy. Thank you so much.
Thank you too.
But I tell you that this conversation will not end here. It is something that we will continue to talk about and bring the details right to the public ear, most especially to Nigerians who are actually facing the issues as regards the policies of government and what needs to be done to cushion the effects, even as we begin to hope for a positive turnaround in these policies. Well, at this point, I'll be handing over the baton to Adebayo Adelabu, who will be taking over from here on the conversation as we look at these issues and all other issues on the show. Just stay with us.